Today we're unboxing an iPhone XR that I picked up on eBay for only $50. And I believe this is definitely the cheapest fully working in good condition iPhone XR on eBay, as these devices regularly sell for over $100. Let's go ahead and get it opened up. And okay, here we have the iPhone XR with the included accessories. The iPhone itself is in a very protective case. And it looks like we have a brand new set of wired Apple EarPods here. It's kind of funny because these have a 3.5mm headphone jack, which of course the iPhone XR does not have. And we also received an OEM Apple USB-C to Lightning cable, which is also kind of ironic because they did include a 5-watt USB-A power adapter. But especially for the super cheap price I paid for this iPhone, it's really incredible to have these accessories here. Let's get this protective case removed so I can get a better look at the condition of the iPhone. And with that back panel removed, the iPhone is looking to be in incredible shape so far. And with the front removed, wow, this iPhone is looking almost flawless. It seems like there's just maybe some minor wear marks from the case pushing against the screen of the device. And I don't see any dents or major wear along the edges here. Let's see if this iPhone has any battery power. And it does. And okay, it boots directly into looks like the iOS 18 setup screen. So let's go through this setup process now. And perfect, it looks like we got through activation, so thankfully there was no sort of activation lock on the device. And here we go, we have made it to this iPhone's home screen. Let's go into settings here so we can learn a little bit more about the device. And looks like this is nearly a fully updated iPhone XR with version 18.2.1. I believe 18.5 is the current version of iOS 18. We can also see that this is a base model 64GB unit, and down at the bottom it has no SIM restriction, so it is a carrier unlocked device. I also want to check out the battery health on this device, as that is a major factor for used iPhones. And okay, perfect. It looks like the device is reporting an 82% maximum capacity here. And since that is above 80%, we don't have any sort of service warning. So it looks like I got a really sweet deal on this iPhone XR. Okay, well, I've spent a little over a day using this iPhone XR and everything on it has been working perfectly. Even though it is fully updated to iOS 18, I decided to kind of make it look like the original version, iOS 12. So I'm using this wallpaper that would have came with this device originally. And in the wallpaper library, I actually put in every color of this default wallpaper for the iPhone XR. So of course the white background to match the white iPhone, as well as the black, blue, yellow, coral, and product red. And there's another variant for each of these wallpapers that were actually featured on the original boxes for these devices. And for the home screen on this device, I decided to arrange the icons in a similar way to iOS 12. And although some of these icons have changed since iOS 12, most notably the Music app as well as the TV app, I just thought this simplified look without the widgets from iOS 18 looked good on this device. This iPhone launched in October 2018 in those 6 colors I mentioned. It launched at a price of $749, which was much more affordable than the $999 iPhone XS. That iPhone XS as well as XS Max had just launched about 1 month prior to this. And it's important to note that this iPhone, along with the XS and XS Max, introduced the modern iPhone lineup strategy. So that's having a standard or base model with the XR here and the up-level model with the XS. Apple had tried lineup strategies like that starting with the iPhone 5C and 5S in 2013. But these iPhones that launched in 2018 really ironed out that strategy. And of course, it would become even more refined with the iPhone 11 and 11 Pro just 1 year later in 2019. So this iPhone XR definitely goes down in history as being a really fantastic iPhone. It offered the new iPhone design language that had just launched with the iPhone X in 2017. And that design brought the full edge-to-edge display with no home button and the notch that included Face ID instead of Touch ID. And at the time, those features had only been on the iPhone for 1 year, so it was nice to have it here in a more affordable package. There were a few compromises with this design versus the 10 and 10S though. It used this aluminum frame instead of a stainless steel one. And it only included the one rear camera lens instead of two. It was pretty neat though because Apple actually still kept the portrait mode option with only this one camera lens. This was a different software-based portrait mode, but it was still nice that they didn't take that feature away with going down to one camera lens. But another compromise that the iPhone XR included was the use of an LCD display instead of OLED. So this was a 6.1-inch LCD that Apple marketed as a liquid retina. And apparently engineering this was quite a feat as the LCD technology did not lend itself well to the curved edge-to-edge design. So this LCD display could not produce true black levels like an OLED panel could. And it was not as bright as those newer OLED panels. The display on this model was a bit controversial, at least in the tech community, as it had somewhat large bezels and a relatively low pixel density. So this had a resolution of 1792 by 828 with a pixel density of 326. And that was still considered to be Retina quality, of course, but it was lower than the iPhone XS by a decent amount. The XS model had a pixel density of 458. So this iPhone did not have a full 1080p HD resolution. And it also removed the pressure-sensitive layer in the screen that enabled the 3D Touch feature. 3D Touch had been around for 3 years at the time as it had launched with the 2015 iPhone 6s. It was replaced with Haptic Touch, which had most of the features that 3D Touch did. But there were some drawbacks. So with 3D Touch, you could press with force anywhere on the keyboard and move around your cursor. But with Haptic Touch, you had to do so in the spacebar only. 3D Touch also had a nice gesture to press firmly on the edge of the screen to access multitasking. And that was not available with Haptic Touch here. 3D Touch did remain on the iPhone XS lineup in 2018, but it was removed from the iPhone 11 lineup altogether in 2019, as well as all future iPhones. This iPhone XR was powered by the A12 Bionic chip, and this was Apple's second 6-core iPhone chip. So it had a 2 performance and 4 efficiency core setup, and it was paired to 3 gigabytes of RAM. So this iPhone did not receive the 4 gigabytes of RAM that the XS and XS Max did. At the time of launch, you could get the iPhone XR with 64, 128, or 256 gigabytes of storage. And this iPhone sold really well. It was Apple's best-selling iPhone of 2018, outselling the XS by a decent margin. It saw price cuts in 2019 and 2020 until it was discontinued in fall 2021. And I wanted to touch on the name of this iPhone as Apple has never used the R moniker again with another iPhone. So according to Apple's Senior Vice President of Marketing at the time, Phil Schiller, the R in iPhone XR was actually inspired by auto manufacturers. And at this point in the video, I would usually talk about the original software for this device. But as this iPhone is fully updated to the very latest version of iOS, we'll talk about how usable it is today instead. So for reference, I currently use the iPhone 12 Pro Max as my daily device. So that's kind of the subconscious standard that I'm holding this iPhone against. And of course, this iPhone is quite a bit slower than the 12 Pro Max that I use. This iPhone definitely has a tendency to lag sometimes, but overall it still holds up really well in 2025. Especially for basic day-to-day tasks, you will have no issue using this device. And you won't have to worry about software incompatibility as this is running the newest version of iOS. But unfortunately that won't be for long as it was just announced at WWDC 2025 that the iPhone XR will not receive the iOS 26 update. So it's definitely at the end of its road here on iOS 18. Although it is important to note that Apple provides security updates for several years after the iOS version was released. I've really enjoyed using this iPhone so far, and even though it is a bit slower than the iPhone that I'm used to, for the insanely cheap price that I paid for this at only $50, I cannot complain at all. I'm definitely going to keep this iPhone in my collection as a backup device. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, these iPhones regularly go for around $100 or $120 on eBay at this time. And just for fun, I checked the Apple trade-in on this device, and it is double what I paid at $100. So I can say pretty much without any doubts that this is one of the best value iPhones I've ever bought. To have a usable and fully updated iPhone in 2025 for only $50 is just crazy. Leave me a comment below with your thoughts on this iPhone XR. I would say there's many users out there that still use this as a daily device. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.